These are my top 5 Halloween gacha units of all time, just for a laugh, to remind you of old gacha games you used to play, and give myself a little nostalgia trip, and just kind of get a video out for Halloween. I thought I'd take a trip down memory lane and take a look at some of my favourite seasonal Halloween gacha units that gacha games have released over the past few years. So these are my top 5 favourite Halloween gacha units across several different games. So obviously, number 5, I guess you would say, is this Toji Fushiguro, or Toji Fushigyo, or whatever you want to call him. The reason he is a Halloween unit is because if you didn't know, not only did he release today, and today is Halloween, so technically speaking, Halloween unit, right, in quotation marks. But if you didn't know, obviously the Shibuya incident takes place on Halloween. So technically speaking, any Shibuya unit is a Halloween unit. You maybe think I'm like splitting hairs with that, but he's a Halloween unit. Shut up, okay? There's a lot of stuff to say about this unit, but I'm going to go through it quick because I'm going over 5 and I want this to be a relatively short video. So, obviously, this new Toji, really good DPS. Is he fantastic? No. He's good, not great. Is he better than Zonji? No. Is he better than Teenjo? Maybe, probably not, but he's a relatively decent yellow DPS. Unfortunately, he's not in costume, as you can see here. He's just in an ugly Grandma Jack jumper, but, you know, not much else to say about him. He's a pretty decent unit for the current meta. I think he'll get stronger with more time since he does have damage over time. I think in the game they just call it stab, but on the wiki they call it something else. They call it sting. He does have DOT. He builds up damage over time with his combo hits, similar to like Red Panda and Blue Yuji. More so Blue Yuji, because he doesn't need to take damage. He just increases his combo count the more he does, the longer the fight goes on. I max about 30, I think. Yeah, I have a max of about 30. So it's just like Blue Yuji for yellow with DOT. He's probably around the same level as Blue Yuji. And obviously Zonji is above that. So yeah, Zonji is better, but he's still a very decent yellow DPS. Should you summon for him? I'll probably do a video about that tomorrow, so I'm not going to say it, but probably not. I'm going to be real. But that was number 5. Number 4, let's go to a different gacha game. A gacha game you've probably never even heard of. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. It doesn't seem like anyone I know plays it. You know the Isekai reincarnated with the slime? It has a gacha game. A turn-based RPG gacha game. It does. Is it very good? But it likes to crash more than Phantom Parade, so it's usually just difficult to get into the game, let alone play it. However, Halloween, a couple of years back, they came out with this goat, Gabiru. Is he a very good unit? No. He is kind of dog water, because not only is he an old unit and wasn't good upon release, it's been years since he came out, and you know how gacha game metas proceed, they tend to leave old units in the dust, especially seasonal ones. Seasonal units tend to be, overall with gacha games, good for that season, and then they'll fall off. There are exceptions, but seasonal units will be meta for a small period and then fall off. This dude was never meta. However, I like Gabiru as a character in the series, and on top of that, when you do activate, because in this gacha game there are 2 types of characters, attackers and protectors. Protectors just kind of like buff the whole team. When you activate his buff, he does a cool little thriller dance, and it's really awesome. And on top of that, his costume is like a zombie cowboy. It's really cool. I like Gabiru. He's a fun character. He's got drip here, and he can dance. Simple as. The reason he's above Toji is because at least he's in costume for Halloween. Toji did not come prepared. Granted, not his fault, but still. There's not much really to say about Gabiru. He's kind of whatever. I think wind isn't the best category overall, and he's just not a very good unit. He's just very old and very bad, but he is really cool. Let's go on to something I know a little bit more about, because people still play this game. 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. So I can speak to the older metas a little bit. I haven't played Grand Cross probably for a while, okay? However, back in the day, one thing that was always good was these kinds of Gothas who had Invasion Arrow, because it lets you buff the entire team significantly, right? An invasion arrow is kind of like a snowball, because once you buffed one invasion arrow, you then buffed the other invasion arrows, and you've also buffed the team. It was just kind of like a snowball. You keep buffing yourself and buffing everyone else's skills. It was really good. I mean, fucking hell, Jesus Christ. People rate him really highly, and he's a really good unit. Apparently, he must be still to some extent. As I say, all Gothas who have this have fairly decent viability. They buff stats with their passive. They deplete ult gauge with their own ult, which is always really nice. Obviously, they're not going to be doing a bunch of DPS, but overall, the unit was relatively strong. As I say, I can't speak to the modern meta, because the more and more units come out for this game, like I only show up for like crossover events, because 7 Deadly Sins has the weirdest crossovers. I even made a video about it years ago, because it's crossed over with, you know, ReZero, Overlord, standard stuff you'd expect, like Isekai stuff and like RPG stuff. And then it also crossed over with King of Fighters and Attack on Titan and Stranger Things. Like 7 Deadly Sins has like the weirdest crossovers, and that's the only time I ever show up. And it also did Eminence and Shadow, which was kind of cool. But this unit was, you know, always viable for a relatively decent amount of time, just because of Invasion Arrow and the ability to drain ult gauge. It was always really cool. And I think he also debuffs with his skill 1. He also takes away enemy gauge. at the end of turns, which is not, that's not bad. And it's an AoE as well. Great. Gotha is the GOAT. I like Gotha. Granted, Seven Deadly Sins as a series fell off a cliff harder than Sack of Bricks, but this unit was always good. His costume's kind of trash. He's got nothing on Gabiru, but still, let's move on to the next. Actually, honourable mention. I don't know on him, but this Halloween Slater looks dope as hell because he looks like a Bloodborne Hunter. I have to say that. He looks like a Bloodborne Hunter mixed with Monster Hunter. Really cool design. I do not own this unit. I cannot say anything about him. He looks really cool. Yeah, Slater's kind of a cool character anyway. Let's go on to the next one, which I think would be number 2. Gotha was number 3. Number 2 is Grimjow. Now, I'll put footage on screen, and I will say I've played a lot of Bleach Brave Souls, right? Over the course of, a long period of time on both mobile and on Steam, right? However, I haven't played for like 4 years, right? And one thing that always annoyed me was the sheer amount of seasonal units that this game got, because there's like chocolate variants for Halloween, for Valentine's Day, there's Halloween units, there's Christmas units, there's bikini units, there's a ridiculous amount of seasonal units for Bleach Brave Souls. However, there was always a silver lining with that in the fact that some of the designs we got were pretty cool. I know there's a lot of others like, of course, the GOAT, Geen, the GOAT. We got like a couple other cool designs, whatever. I don't care about Ben the Witch. That Huron Maru is horrifying. But we got some cool designs, and my favourite of the Halloween units that I do own, as I say, it's been 4 years since I've really played. I don't remember if he was ever good. I know he's got a Resurrection now, but I have no idea about the current meta of Brave Souls. I have no idea how the game works anymore, meta-wise, but design-wise, and with his animation and stuff, I think this Grimjow Jaggerjack is pretty cool. He looks like he's ripped straight out of Nanbaka, if you've seen that show. Props to you. With the full-on orange jumpsuit, looks Halloweeny, has me in a good mood. I like it. He's not like, as I say, I can't speak. He does poison, and he's melee-based. Cool. I literally have nothing to say about him in regards to the meta. I can't speak to him. His animations are relatively cool. Whole prisoner aesthetic. Looks like he's from Nanbaka. I literally logged into Brave Souls just to take a look at him, and then I was like, oh, he's got a Resurrection. Did his Resurrection, used him in an event for 2 seconds. He's cool. As I say, can't say if he's very good, but he's cool. Grimjow's also really cool in the series, so, not much else to say. As I say, there's plenty of other seasonal units, but who cares about them? Grimjow's the god. Now, here's a weird one. Now, if you're a seasoned Dokkan Battle player, you would know that early Dokkan Battle was really weird, because it would do more experimental stuff that the game nowadays doesn't seem like it's willing to do. And when I say that, I mean, it did more crossovers and events that were just a bit more different. I mean, don't forget, like, within the first couple of years of Dokkan being out, it did a crossover with One Piece Treasure Cruise, and there was an event where you fight Doflamingo, because I think Dressrosa was being animated at the time, which was really cool to do, because there was also like this farmable SSR Goku that was like dog, but you could farm a bunch of him to increase super attack levels, but whatever, that's not what we're talking about. This, as far as I'm aware, is like one of the very, very few, if not the only, like, real seasonal unit outside of like April Fools or Valentine's Day, because in Dokkan you will sometimes get units like Christmas Master Roshis and statues to like sell or level up, and they'll be like seasonally based, but they won't be like actual units to use, which is fine, right? But this is one of the few that is like actually, he's for Halloween, right? Not only did they pick the one character, well, technically there's two, but one of the few characters who uses ghosts, he also has a creepy haunted mansion behind him, so he's very clearly a Halloween unit, granted the fact he was also released in October. Now, the actual unit itself, is he good? No, and he never really was. He was always, for a free-to-play at the time on release, he was okay, just because, he recovered HP, and that was like quite useful back in the day. Like if you remember old school JP Fanta, when he used to do like free play runs, heal all the time. With this guy ages ago, right? And then eventually he got a Dokkan Awakening, right? And they kind of forgot the horror aesthetic, because it's just explosions now, no creepy haunted house, which is a shame. But they made him slightly better. And then a year after the Dokkan Awakening, he got an Extreme Z Awakening, and he's just now kind of... Don't forget, this is like an Extreme Z Awakening from 5 years ago, so yes, it's still not good. Well, it's not good now, because if it was ever good, it's been 5 years, so it immediately, like, it fell out of the meta, if it ever was part of it, really quickly, and it never really was. So he was an okay free-to-play unit, then he got buffed, then he got an Extreme Z Awakening, and then just the meta just kind of passed him by, which is a shame, but... As I say, he's one of the very, very few seasonal units. Like, as I say, Dokkan gets, like, weird stuff. Like, you'll get Christmas Master Roshis or Christmas, like, characters to sell. Same with Valentine's Day and April Fools. Like, you will get April Fools units, but outside of them, this is, like, the only Halloween one. Except for maybe the, like, zombie Gohan. Like, it was, like, an April Fool's joke. But whatever. Yeah. Those are, like, my top 5 Halloween units. You can say Toji is a stretch. Shut up. He's a Halloween unit. I'm not going to hear it. He came out on Halloween. at least on Global, ignore that. He came out today on Global, which is Halloween, came out this morning, and Shibuya takes place on Halloween. So even if he's not in costume, he's a Halloween unit. But with that being said, fellas, I think that's all there is to say. Hope you have a happy Halloween. I know I'm not in costume. I should be. But yeah, I'm out of here. Tools my doodles. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.